Are you ready to unmute your power? Are you sick and tired of being told to shut up? Welcome to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. This is not just a podcast, it's a revolution. This is for the women who are done tolerating mediocrity, done biting their tongues, and done playing small. With bold truths and unfiltered insights, I'll help you rip off that proverbial muzzle, put your stake in the ground, and take back the power you were told to suppress. You were never meant to be silent. The world is waiting to hear your voice. It's time to speak up, and speaking up starts now. Hello, and welcome to Something to Say. I'm your host, Jamie Shae. The purpose of my show is to reach women who have been silenced, overlooked, neglected, negated, and ignored. I want to reach women who are seeking their voice and men who are allies wanting the same for them. I want to address the costs of women being silenced. I want to address the lack of real life, influential women role models by bringing some on this show to inspire other women to grow and become role models too. I want to provide a safe space so women gain the courage to be heard, acknowledged, and elevated. I want to help them overcome their fear and have practical tools and empowering insights to rebuild their identity and reclaim their power. I see that women are not sure how to reach for and find equality in the many patriarchal spaces that exist today. Even when they want to, they often don't know how to rebuild and show up fully after being silenced. I'm passionate about raising the alarm about the immeasurable losses to society when women do not speak up or participate fully. I want my show to support courageous truth-telling, identity reclamation, authentic self-expression, empowerment through education, and collective healing. And that's why I am so excited to bring you my guest, Judy Ryan. Judy is a woman role model in my life and in the lives of those who bring her work into their workplaces, schools, and homes. She has her own show on this very network called When Everyone Wins. Her tagline is shifting power over and power under to power within and power between. Judy looks at the systems that perpetuate misuses of power and brings a deep understanding for why we have such systems, but more importantly, what to do instead. The feminine qualities needed at this time in our world, in men and women, are often modeled best by women when they become fearless. And these qualities are empathy, trust, consideration of what we cause one another, care for the oppressed, and a commitment to refuse getting ahead at the cost of others. The best in women and men is win-win. It is bringing others forward with us. Women are uniquely positioned when they see and stand up for healthy systemic change to bring what is most beneficial forward to everyone. My guest understands this better than most women I have ever met and worked with. She understands the root causes for why we have such an imbalance and misuse of power, why we have so much struggle within people and between people, and the vital role of women in turning all of this around. So, meet my guest, Judy Ryan. Judy is an award-winning thought leader in culture transformation. She is the founder and CEO of LifeWork Systems and has been for 23 years. She is the author of a book called What's the Deal with Workplace Culture Change, a columnist with over 250 published articles, a consultant, trainer, and systems developer. It's impressive. She is often interviewed on TV, radio, podcasts, and as I mentioned, is now hosting her own business show on this network. She's most proud of creating Culture EX, a culture transformation process and implementation that is scalable and powerfully helpful. And I am actually being certified in Culture EX. And Judy's work is helping me to speak up even more and more importantly, addressing how I have been second guessing myself and dampening the full expression within me and between me and with others. And that's why I'm so excited to have Judy on my show. I want to share with you what I'm learning and invite Judy to specifically share her knowledge and experiences so that together we can help you listeners feel hope and see a path to speaking up and being heard with confidence. Judy holds many keys to helping women do so with confidence, understanding, intention, and tools. Her work fosters the best in men and women and sets the stage for the balance and respect needed within and between us all. So, welcome, Judy. I'm so happy you're here.
I can't imagine a better person to be with right now. I just absolutely love working with you and knowing you. So thank
Thank
you, Jamie.
you. Same, same. I am so honored to, and I feel so blessed, and it's so divinely guided we're brought together. So,
Yeah, it really feels divinely guided.
yes, yes. And it's thanks to this show, actually, that brought us together.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So, thank you, Dr. Pat and Alyssa. So, Judy, how do you personally relate to the theme of my show, Something to Say?
You know, it's really funny because, as you know from my work, one of the most important things is that we feel a sense of belonging and significance in our lives. And that when we do, we feel empowered. We feel that we have a voice.
Yeah.
We feel that we're lovable, which is really feeling seen and heard. Lovable it's always something I try to distinguish. It's not the same as being loved, but it's feeling as though who you are delights other people and that they're taking you in, that they're receptive. And even though I had a very loving set of parents and a loving family, my parents were kind of in that era, and it still happens today, where children are kind of thought of as a blank slate, and they're to be written on. And I remember my parents had very strong views on politics and religion and all kinds of things. And if any of their six children were to disagree, they were very polite about it, but they were pretty relentlessly certain that they were right and we were wrong. And
Oh,
so it just had this feeling of I didn't have anything that I could bring to the table that they would be open to, or that they would even see as possibly delightful in any way if it didn't agree with them. And it was really difficult for me because I'm a pretty strong person, but as a child, I just became kind of compliant with that to a large degree, even though it didn't really dampen my spirit per se. It
mm,
dampened my feeling of being able to be open. And if anything has propelled me into the work that I do, it's recognizing kind of the neglect and the significant sort of abuse of when we don't listen to one another. And I think for women in particular, it's even worse because societally, it seems to be that way. You
yeah.
know, that there's a lot of places where women aren't invited. I remember one time I went to an event and it was probably about 75% men, maybe even more. And I was standing next to this man that had invited me, and he kept saying, "We're all gentlemen here. We're all businessmen here." And I'm thinking, I'm not a businessman. And it just sort of rankled. And afterwards, I said to him, "You might want to include like we're all business people or we're all businessmen and women." And I said, how do you think that made the women in the room feel? And he said, this was really sad. He looked at me and he goes, I'm not sure we really should have women here. That's what he said to me. And I
Wow.
said, well, it would really be nice if you decided that before you included us, because I felt like I was here, but I wasn't welcome. And I was grateful that I had the courage to say that, and I wasn't hateful about it, but it was just startling. And I've read a lot and seen a lot where women just aren't invited to speak, or they're interrupted by, not just men, but in general, are thought to, kind of be a little bit more power under
Yes.
instead of power with.
Yeah.
So that's why I love this program that you're doing and why I think it's so important. Um,
Thank you.
I think when we don't have enough women involved in things, there's too much brutality. And when we don't have enough of the masculine within us or between us, it's too passive. So
I
it's
agree.
the two wings of the bird, we need
Yeah,
both.
I completely agree. And I love your story, because I do feel that even if women are in the room,
Hmm.
sometimes we're in the room because we're supposed to be. They're told, men are told we're supposed to be in the room. We have to be invited.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're being heard. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean our voices are welcome,
Right.
and that we're often dismissed,
Hmm.
talked over, our ideas are stolen. And that's been my experience because I was in the tech world. I was in project management, software development, in IT specifically.
Right.
And I felt I had to fight to be heard oftentimes. And when I would say something and it was ignored, and then a man would then 10 minutes later say that same idea, everybody's like, wow, that's the greatest idea. Oh my God, that's so great. I wanted to say, you guys, that was me. I said
That's
that
what
to
I just said. Didn't you
you.
hear me?
But then I'm like, well, then I'm going to be labeled,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to be labeled a bitch or something because I'm saying that's my idea. Okay, so how can women take situations like that and use it to their advantage without, or maybe we shouldn't care if we get labeled.
I don't think we should. And I think that when we're clear about our intention and we haven't held back so much that we are being aggressive, that's typically what does cause us to get called names. But even when we're not being aggressive, we might get called names. I know forever and ever, I have said a prayer, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody that's not religious. I'm not necessarily religious, but I'm prayerful. And it was, please release me from the need for love, approval, and acceptance from others.
Mm,
And it does not mean I don't like love, approval, and acceptance. We all do. But, you know, if I am overly worried about what others think of me, I can't even be in service to them because I'm not going to be authentic with them. I'm not going
right.
to say the nice things because I'm afraid, and I'm not going to say the hard things because I'm afraid. So I think that if worst case scenario is they call you a name or they resent you, so be it.
Right.
It's just important to commit to letting go of whether they like you or not.
Mm, and that's really powerful.
It's
That is,
difficult sometimes.
it is difficult, but it is so powerful.
Yeah.
Why do you think we have such an imbalance of power and an imbalance of input from women?
I do think it's very societal, and it's not just societal in the United States, it's societal in the world. There's a lot of belief in power over, power under dynamics. Some countries, I mean, our country's doing pretty badly right now in that
Yeah.
area, but it's really win-lose. Even when you're in the power under position, you're in lose, but you're also in lose when you're in the power over, even though people don't always realize it. Because as soon as you're in power over, now you've got to maintain your top of the hill position, which is kind of degrading to one's soul, and can cause people to rebel and resist and to do mediocre work and all kinds of things, or mediocre marriages, mediocre family life.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is that a lot of people don't know how to do it differently. It's been so inundated in our society to do that sense of power over, power under, that, and even when you were talking a minute ago about so many women have been silenced and neglected and all of that, that is all true. But the women also have internalized doing power under, and we are culpable to the degree in which we work to get out of that.
Hmm.
And but I also do think that I read a book this year that I think is a really good way to express this. Women do come into life wanting more of power within and power between and power for one another. Call it that feminine set of qualities, whether it's in a man or a woman, that is nurturing, that is empathetic, like you described in the beginning. But if you're in a work world or even in a school district or in a family where it's all about compliance and do what I say or else, or I'm going to give you a reward if you behave well. I'm going to dangle a carrot in front of you, or I'm
Mhm.
going to approve of you or disapprove of you if it's all about pleasing me. Then it becomes where we become conditioned to do that power over and power under. Even when we don't like it, we don't know what to do instead.
Mhm.
So, as you kind of know from my work, it's about letting go of those control tactics and not falling into the fear that it's going to mean that there's going to just be permissiveness and that there's going to be anarchy and that there's going to be laissez-faire and a lower standard. That's not at all what I recommend. But if you don't know how to replace the power over, power under dynamics, that's what the default becomes.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I used to I sometimes still do. I'd go in front of a big audience at a conference and I would say, how many of you like the sign, be a parent, not a friend? And most people would raise their hand. And I said, can you see that under that message is you can't be both? Like to be a parent means you have to be this hard ass.
Right. Yeah.
And as a boss, you have to be that. But if you know how to help people in a different way, you don't have to be either or.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting to see how much it's just saturated in our way of seeing things.
Conditioned. Yeah. To believe that's so true. Yeah. I I've struggled with that as a parent and as a leader.
Hmm.
Um, and I've taken the stance of let's work together, right? And getting to know each person individually and
Hmm.
what works to motivate them instead of taking an autocratic do as I say and assume that everybody responds to that in the same way. But I've always felt different for it too, and not necessarily rewarded by my leadership for having a different type of leadership.
Yeah, you often aren't because
Right.
it's kind of outside of the lines. And what's really sad about it is doing the threatening autocratic approach, quote unquote, works. So does dangling carrots, telling people you get a bonus if you do that. I mean, right now there's politicians trying to bribe people to vote a certain way, with money. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it works with a lot of people because we've been so conditioned to be puppeted by
Yes.
others. So the thing that most people don't see is the cost of that, the high
Right.
price tag of that, and how you're really holding people in a very negative mindset
Mm-hmm.
when you do those things to them. If I have to control you by threatening you, what am I thinking about you? I'm thinking that you're not trustworthy,
Right.
that you're not as reliable or something, and I have to
Capable.
dominate you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm dangling a carrot in front of you, I'm probably assuming that you're lazy and selfish if I'm not. That's a
Yeah,
pretty awful thing.
it is pretty awful. And people, yeah, if more people could look at it that way,
Yeah.
they'd want to change the whole system. So, why is it so essential for women to speak up and show up at this time specifically?
I think the whole win-lose dynamic that's going on is what causes people to become callous and to enter into what you and I know is called the inferiority feelings.
Mhm.
Brene Brown has called it shame.
Mhm.
And And even Brene Brown, when she's invited to speak places, people will say, how about you not talk about that shame? It's a little dark and it makes people uncomfortable. But that's why she says that's my number one platform. Well, that's always been my number one platform because we follow the psychiatrist Alfred Adler, who coined the phrase inferiority complex. So women have been more subjugated than men, but even the subjugation that men witness causes them to have more fear and more shame because we're human beings first and foremost. So even when we are complicit in the subjugation, there's a cost to that. So what happens is that we all go into those shame spirals, and then we're often running with I'm right, you're wrong. I'm good, you're bad. I win, you lose. I'll do war with you. I'll do cancel culture with you. I'll disengage from you. I will misbehave. I will do all kinds of terrible things to you. And I will also do terrible things to me, myself. I'll put myself in states of stress and depression and anxiety and overeating and over medicating and all kinds of things. So I think the reason women are needed right now is because the good news about the feminine qualities in a man or a woman is that we're sensitized to how painful things can be.
Yeah.
And when we're able to look at that so clearly that we want something that is not going to cause ourselves and others pain, then we're willing to put aside the things we already know for the better things that are available. We can't even hear them if we're so committed to what has always been.
Mm.
So I kind of think the reason women are subjugated often, and right now in particular in the United States, is because there are some people that are clinging to win-lose with a death grip. They're so afraid of losing ground, even though they don't realize they've lost ground
Hmm.
by how they're operating.
Right.
Men are women. I've met women who have been conditioned to step on the necks of other people to get ahead. And
Yes.
what's interesting about them, I remember one in particular, she knew better and she knew what she needed to do, but she had finally arrived at the top of the heap.
Mm.
And because she was actually mentored by a man that told her to be ruthless and to step over people and all of that. And it was messing with her. But when it came right down to it, she was not willing to give up the I've arrived and I feel secure finally. And I'm willing to shut down my conscience in order to be that person that has made it to the top. And that's crushing for men and women, I believe.
Hmm. So is security, is that a root cause? Do you believe that's one of the root causes?
I would
Or
say that because the way we raise children and the way we raise families and the way we educate in schools, we've already set people up to feel insecure,
yeah.
uh, ashamed of who they are, doubting that their power is good. It's kind of like that story about where they tie up baby elephants and then after they're full grown and they could easily pull away, a little tiny rope will keep them mired because they've been conditioned to believe that they're not powerful or that somehow, they're impotent. I think that's what's happened.
Yeah. I would agree with you. So what are what key concepts um do you feel we have to create some positive conditions to honor and elevate women in this world?
Well, I'm kind of biased. I kind of think it's what we're doing with life work systems.
I would agree. I would agree.
No,
So I want to be part of it.
it's really funny because when people start to realize that system change starts at all the levels, like when we do our work well and people receive it, it changes the way they parent. When
Mm,
we've worked in schools, it changes the way that they're educating their students. And but a lot of people are like, well, don't touch those. Those are like the sacred things that we've come to think are already fixed.
mm,
Yet we have such a problem even in childhood with kids being depressed and anxious and addicted to technology and some of them going on drugs and not doing well in school and all of those things. We have a lot of evidence that the way we've been doing it has not been that great.
yeah.
So I think what is scary for people is to realize how far reaching the root causes are. We'd like to think, oh, let's just take a communication workshop and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
Like Jamie, you know how in the very first session you took, one of the first commitments that I taught you all from a sense of tools
Mm,
was the two tools to stop gossip.
yep.
And the mind trust is, Jamie, I promise you I won't say bad things about you behind your back. And then
Yeah.
the second step is I will come to you if I have a problem with you. Well, if I don't feel confident, if I don't feel equipped, if I don't feel supported, why would I come to you and work out my problems with you? Because I'd be more afraid it would blow up in my face and I would set off a chain of negative reactions if I don't have all of the things I need to be able to come to you and do that. So even though I love that tool and everybody that ever hears about it loves it, and it also goes on to say, I won't let other people say bad things about you. I'll
Mhm.
stop them, and
Mm.
I'll try to get them to go back to you. All by itself, that is not easy to do if you don't have a system change.
Right.
It's like trying to run a marathon and all we've been eating is, I don't know, rice and nothing else.
Right.
We can't do it.
No, no. I believe that centering ourself is actually a key to a lot of our problems.
Mhm.
And we've been taught the opposite, that being self-centered is wrong. And in a meditation, Mary Magdalene came to me and told me this being self-centered, centering self is actually the answer.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts on that?
I love that you brought this up. I got chills when you brought this up
Oh.
because it's a combination. We cannot be good for the world if we are not good within ourselves. So
Mhm.
to me, individuation is what I hear you describing.
Mhm.
And that means creating a healthy and a strong sense of self. And when we have that, combined with, and now use that power to be in service to yourself, but also to other people. Now you have what you need to do that. Now, if I promise you, I'm not going to say bad things about you and I'm going to come to you and work it out with you, I'm going to be committed to finding the way to do that because I have been strengthened to believe I deserve that and that I have the capability of that. But otherwise, I'm just going to say, well, who am I? You
Mhm.
know, and even you, Jamie, who are so powerful and I didn't even know you had that vision. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, you've discovered, gosh, I I know, but I back off of it,
Mhm. I do.
and it's been fun to watch it. And I do too.
Yeah.
I couldn't help you if I hadn't been helping myself all this time.
Right. Right. No, and I'm so grateful for you and our connection. So as we close today's episode, I just want to leave you with this. The cost of silence is just far too high. And when women's voices are suppressed, the world loses balance. Progress stalls, and the best of what we have to offer each other remains hidden. But when we rise, when we step into our full power and speak our truth, everything changes. Judy, I am so grateful for you, for the wisdom and the insight you shared today. Your work in shifting power from over and under to within and between is exactly what this world needs. You have shown us that reclaiming our voice is not just personal, it's systemic. It's about changing the structures that keep women doubting themselves and giving them the tools to step forward with confidence. Thank you for being a role model to me, a mentor, a guiding force in this movement, and for everyone. So, to everyone listening, this is your time. We were not meant to shrink. You were made to be seen, born to be bold, and destined to be heard. Heard. Every time you speak your truth, you challenge the systems that have kept you silent. So,
Yeah.
thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Me too.
All
You
right.
too. You.
Thank you. Have a good one. We'll see you next time, everybody. You've been listening to Something to Say with me, Jamie Shae, because silence is no longer an option. Catch me live every first and third Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, on transformationtalkradio.com to learn how you too can rip off your proverbial muzzle. Silence was never your destiny. It's time to speak up. Subscribe to my channel to listen first when new episodes drop. Follow me on social media and visit guidedbyjamie.com to join the community that has something to say.